think the common theme in my own life was the lack of connection to my own spirit and the lack of cultural supports and the lack of resources for people that are similar to myself and that certain identity that I have as a two-spirit femme.
I grew up really outside my culture, so I think there's a lot of youth like me where they don't, like I say, they don't see themselves in media, they don't have people in their community that they can talk to.
I'm somebody who always doubts, like, should I be here? Should I be doing this? Do I belong? I have cross-sectional identities in all areas, in my race and my sexuality.
From my own personal experience, I worked through my own internalized homophobia, my precondition to understand what masculinity is and its relation to being born as a male, and how it was frowned upon for me to express my own femininity. Me being preconditioned to a life of addiction, with intergenerational trauma and a lot of my family out in the res, seeing that growing up, I didn't realize how susceptible I was to that lifestyle moving here.
Being a youth in its purest form is already fraught with feelings and with reflecting and questions and change. But when you, again, start to pile on some of these intersections, right? If the youth is queer, if the youth is Indigenous, if the youth is two-spirit, that can, again, add a lot of layers of complexity.
Having lived through the long history of substance use and addiction, on top of that, within the Western correction system, I was trapped in there for well over a decade. And when I began embracing my identity and started to learn about my two-spirit being, I started to feel comfortable with who I am.
So I do identify as Indigi-Queer, two-spirit, in colonized terms as pansexual. And I came out at a kind of a later age. I was 24, maybe 25 when I came out to my parents. And I'm still coming into that identity and learning about it because I wasn't raised with those teachings. A lot of us weren't.
Learning about what it is to be two-spirit and kind of the history. I started that journey through academia, through university. So I had a very westernized view of what it meant to be two-spirit and really actually didn't have any knowledge at all. I wasn't aware that there are teachings and even songs. We have our own ceremonies, and all of that stuff is knowledge that I never received.
It wasn't until I was in treatment and we were sitting in ceremony when I heard that the ceremonialists actually say that two-spirit people were once revered. That they were called upon by community and chiefs for how they were able to view the world and articulate that and be able to share those gifts with the community when called upon. And that was my first taste of what it was like to become who I was meant to be.
We're creating more safer spaces for the queer community or Indigi-Queer community to be themselves. So I think that's what helps a lot. It helped me to further along I'm kind of in the beginning stages of my own personal self-discovery. So what I realized had helped me was seeing other people embrace themselves.
Having good people around me, good community supports, has always been probably the biggest thing for me. When I struggled with addiction and when I struggled with being unhoused, it was really people around me that loved me and nourished me and lifted me up that gave me that strength to move forward.
We've heard from parents, we've heard from family of two-spirits and Indigi-Queer that have experienced mental health deterioration and suicidal ideation. And we have that ability to support them. We have experience in trying to find some healing in that situation and not just therapy. There's your holistic health. We look at what's going on physically, emotionally, spiritually. We figure out in what area somebody might need to be filled up a little bit. And, safety around our own sexual health as well, and safety around our physical safety and our own mental health. If we are exploring or trying to understand who we are, where we center ourselves, and finding those supports can be difficult at times.
Support could look like showing up to like a two-spirited social, even if it's just on Zoom. Like that is something to provide a sense of community, a sense of belonging. I'd say that's the key to, for me personally, that's the key to me holding on to my queer identity and my two-spirit identity and feeling like I can talk about it and that I can be proud. It's important to reach out because being alone is never really leads to good things. And it can, go to some pretty dark places for people. So that's why I think it's important.
And I think that we're doing a really good job of making sure that we stay true to our Indigenous roots, because that's like really the heart of the work that we're doing is, just keeping those teachings alive and finding out that space for us as two-spirit people. Where do we sit at the table? And if there's no spot, okay, well then we're just gonna make a spot and we're just gonna sit there.
This is now their resurgence and the revival, and E2S is a place that offers space for our Indigi-Queer and two-spirit beings to come together, to join us, to learn ceremony, to learn traditions. If we are able to hold those spaces together, then we're not alone.